Hello chess lovers, Soren here, and in this video I want to share with you an interesting attacking game which was played exactly 30 years ago this day, on the 23rd of February. On the white side is Ukrainian chess grandmaster Vassily Ivanchuk, and the 13th world chess champion Garry Kasparov is playing with the black pieces. This game was played in the first round of famous Linares tournament. Exactly 30 years later, now we will enjoy this game together. e4, Ivanchuk is opening up with his king's pawn and Kasparov is answering with his usual Sicilian defense. d6, bishop b5 check. Ivanchuk is choosing the Moscow variation, which at the time was not that popular. The reason for this is that he saw that Kasparov is not playing this line well and he decided to test his opponent's skills. And he actually came up with that idea when he saw a game played between David Joseph Dunne and Kasparov. But interestingly, that game was played in 1976 when Kasparov was still a kid. But anyways, he decided to give a try and go for this line. So white is offering the pawn on e4, but accepting it can be very dangerous for black. White is managing to open up the e file. That's why black is usually capturing on d4, which we see in our game. Queen takes d4, a6, bishop takes d7 check, bishop takes d7, bishop g5, h6. Nowadays, modern theory recommends e6. In the game we see h6 and bishop takes f6, g takes f6, c4. At the time this was a novelty. Before this, usually white was playing knight c3, but in the game white established this Maroczy bind, which will later enable white to go for a queenside pawn push, something which we're going to see in this game. Rook c8, king h1, a prophylactic move. White is moving away his king from this semi-open g file, and h5 by Kasparov. a4, h4, he's trying to gain space on the king's side and create some counterplay. Bishop e7, b4, a5. Not the best continuation. Playing queen c7, hitting on c4, and then d5 followed by queen e5 is better. This leads to very interesting battle and allows black to somehow activate his position. Instead, in the game we see a5 and we see queen c7 only after b5, but in this case already white has managed to move away his pawn from the vulnerable b4 square, and now with b5 white is restricting the movement of this light squared bishop. Knight d2, white is protecting the pawn on c4, queen c5, queen d3, rook g8, rook a e1, queen g5, rook g1, queen f4. Kasparov is looking for weaknesses in white's camp, but there are none. Actually, after queen e4, black is starting to face some problems. Playing queen c5 followed by b6 and acquiring a waiting strategy is better, but as Kasparov is a very aggressive, dynamic player, he tried to look for initiative himself, and we have queen f4, rook ef1, b6, knight e2, queen goes back on h6, and c5. This is an interesting pawn sacrifice by Ivanchuk. f4 looks more natural after knight e2. This can be a logical continuation, but in the game we see this bold pawn sacrifice, which is putting his opponent in a very tough situation. Interestingly, already at this point Kasparov was in a time trouble and he failed to find the best defensive resource. He played rook takes c5, which is losing. There are two other ways of accepting the pawn sacrifice. B takes c5 is also not good because of this knight c4, and actually the best defense starts with d takes c5. Now if knight c4, then rook b8. If rook d1, then bishop c8, and black is managing to survive. Still, white has an initiative, but all in all this is the best line. In the game to c5, Kasparov answered with rook c5, and now let's see what's the problem with it. Here comes knight c4, white is taking under attack two pawns, king f8 and knight takes b6. Knight takes d6 is also playable, but winning this pawn is allowing white to get a very dangerous passed pawn. Right now the bishop is under attack. We have bishop e8, and f4. f5, e takes f5, rook takes f5, rook c1. White is totally dominating the position. King g7 and g4. Not the strongest continuation. This is also good, but knight c8 could guarantee white an easy victory. And then b6. If rook d5, then queen e4, and then b6. You should give up your dark squared bishop. In the game, we see g4 by Ivanchuk. Rook c5. Well, if h takes g3, then queen takes g3, and then queen c3 check. Black king is in a mating net. Of course, you should not win the rook because of this queen h3 checkmate. Just announce a check from c3, and soon you will kill the enemy king. This is how the mating line goes. Let's take a quick look at it. And then queen c6 check, and then knight e6 followed by queen c7 or queen c8 checkmate. Oops, checkmate is on the board. Let's go back. So in the game to g4, Kasparov answered with rook c5, after which the exchange of rooks on c5 followed. Knight c8, bishop goes back on f8, and this time we see queen d8. Now if queen f6, then simply queen takes e8. In the game, Kasparov played queen g6, which is a somewhat cunning move. You should not hurry with queen takes e8 because of this queen d3 move. And suddenly black is managing to equalize. That's why in the game we first see f5 blocking the diagonal. Now if here, then g takes f5 can follow. That's why Kasparov played queen h6. And again, you have to be careful. Winning the bishop is not good because of this queen e3. That's why in the game this time we see g5, queen h5, rook g4. All the time white is neutralizing black queen and is keeping it imprisoned. It takes f5, there comes knight f4, queen h8, queen f6 check. This is a miserable position, guys, and probably this is the first time that I see Kasparov in such a terrible situation. King h7, rook takes h4, and at this point finally Kasparov resigned. If here, then checkmate is coming, right? Yeah, what a dominating game by Vassily Ivanchuk. He just gave his opponent no chance to breathe and cold-heartedly smashed everything on his way. And in the end, a chess puzzle for you, where the task is to find the winning line for white. As usual, we'll wait for your answer in the comment section. Feel free to check out my early uploads as well. We'll see you in my next video. Take care.